I'm pretty loud as it is, so I really don't need the mic except for the recording part. So I'll try to dial it back a little bit. All right, I'm Rob Jorgensen. I actually do have a bio. I've been working in technology and InfoSec for about 20 years in Utah. I left industry about 2 years ago to work in academia, where I've been building a cybersecurity program. So, and this talk is InfoSec, just doing it. Notice it's not just do it, so I'm not infringing on Nike's trademark. So the way this talk came about was with my role, I get asked by a lot of people how you get into cybersecurity, how you get into InfoSec. What can you do? I have a lot of people who are students who don't really have any experience, but I also talk to a lot of people who are system engineers, system administrators, network administrators who say, I really want to be in security, but my company won't support me. I don't know what to do. And a lot of people basically are like, I can't afford it, because everyone thinks that if you want to be an InfoSec, you've got to go take a $5,000 SANS course. Is anyone here taking a SANS course? Was it good? Yeah, great courses, but expensive, right? So this comes up a lot, and one of the things I say is, well, there are things you can do, and one of the big things is setting up a virtual lab, and that's kind of where this started out with. But then I realized that that wasn't really the place to start. So the question is, why are we going to set up the labs, and where to start? And so one of the big questions is, do you actually want to work in InfoSec? Does everyone here want to work in InfoSec, cybersecurity? Anyone not sure? This is a question because some people, they want to hack, they want to tinker, they want to get into various things, but they may not actually want to do it as a job. And then the question is, do you actually like doing InfoSec, or do you like the idea of doing InfoSec? Does everyone recognize that distinction? It's like, who here wants to be a pen tester or a hacker? Anybody? Who here likes writing 30 hours of reports? Yeah. Weirdo. He's got a good beard, though. We need to get that on camera. So let's kind of zoom out a little bit. So to the general public, what do we do? Right? If you're trying to explain to your grandparents, or you're talking about somebody who's looking at jobs in the scope of all of the jobs in the world, right? Construction workers and airline pilots and marine biologists, what do you say? Yeah.
Try to keep that logon data from leaking.
Some people say that. How many people just say, I work with computers, or I do computer stuff? For those watching online, that was pretty much all the hands, right? But like, if I say, hey, what do you do? And you said, I do computer stuff. Is that going to be a good enough answer for me? No, because we kind of zoom in on things when we know about them. So, if I say, hey, what do? You say, oh, I work in computers. I'm like, oh yeah, what kind of computers? You're like, oh, I'm an IT person. Oh, what kind of IT person? Oh, I'm a sysadmin. Oh, what kind of sysadmin? Oh, I'm a Linux sysadmin. Like, well, you like CentOS, you like Fedora, oh, no, And so it kind of gets deeper and deeper in. And it's the same thing with security. A lot of people think, oh, there's a security job, right? And that's like saying there's a DBA job. Okay, are all DBAs the same? Yes, no, right? So there's weirdo Oracle DBAs, and then there's everyone else. I'm just kidding, they're all weird. So with security people, it can't be just like, oh, I want to be a security person. And so one of the questions is, what do you want to do in security? Do you want to be a pen tester? Do you want to write firewall rules? Do you want to do things with Snort? So the really question is, what's your passion? What moves you? What are you really interested in? What makes you want to learn more? And what gives you a rush? Does anyone ever get that rush when they're working on something and they figure it out? They're popping a box, or they're writing a query, or they're getting some code to work, and suddenly it's like, everything works and angels sing, right? And that's a good feeling, right? If you never get that, maybe this isn't the thing for you. Okay? If you're just like, all right, I guess it worked. time to go punch the clock. It's going to be a really, really long, career, I guess. So, and then the thing is, what wows you? Do you ever read about something and go, that's awesome, I want to do that? Okay? Yeah. You have an example? Not offhand.
It's usually things with electronics. It's not an area that I'm good at.
Okay.
So I do a lot of programming and stuff like that, but I don't know very much about hardware.
Okay.
So, for example, there was a thing on Hacker News the other day about a guy who built a device that existed for no reason other than to destroy machines by putting in box in the USB port.
Nice.
I'm always intrigued by stuff like that.
Do you like to break things?
Generally, yes.
Sweet. All right. So with this, I want to have a little bit more of an open dialogue, even though it's going to be weird for people watching it. I kind of want to embrace that BSides discussion concept rather than just me up here talking. Does anyone else have anything that wows them, that gets them excited? I'm talking to you, Dr. Unicorn.
Yeah, I like that side panel attack. I think those are really awesome.
Yeah. You gave a talk on one, right?
Yeah.
So, there's Jeff in the back who likes malware. We'll talk about Jeff a little more later. But one of the things I get is I say, what wows you? What do you want to do with cybersecurity? And this is the answer I get. Anything, I don't care, I just want to be an InfoSec. This is how you end up, tweaking snort rules for the next, 3 years. Or something awful. I mean, people who say that end up in a situation like this. Yeah, some people have no idea what that is. Does anyone have no idea what that is? Find somebody old, Jeff, and have them tell you. Get off my lawn, kid. Who let that guy in? When's your talk? What time? Okay. I'll be there to heckle you. And I'm bringing friends. All right, so one of the questions is, what can you do to find that passion? And, I instead of blanking the screen, I jumped ahead a slide. What do you guys think? What do you do to find that? Read a lot. What do you read? Good. What else? RFCs? RFC 1918? Which is the RFC for the pigeon-based IP. That's not 1918, but what else? YouTube. Okay, good. Anyone else? DC 801. So how many of you have a passion in InfoSec or to do something in cybersecurity? What is it? I mean, before I asked if anyone had a passion when I was actually calling on people and no one raised their hand. Anyone want to share anything? Yeah, yes.
I actually enjoy the blue team side of the equation, and I enjoy the hops. I enjoy trying to understand what this guy is doing and why he's even attempting to do that to that aspect.
Okay, great. So you like blue team stuff. Fantastic. How did you get into that?
There are intrusion analyst jobs around the valley that are entry-level intern type jobs.
Mm-hmm. But how did that grab you personally?
How did that grab me personally? There was stuff going on that we didn't understand. It was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was doing it, so I started trying to figure it out.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Wow. Great audience participation at the end of the day. I'll get back to you. Ethan in the back. So you like to watch. So, and how did you get into that, Ethan? Way in the back? Okay. Good. So one of the things is there anyone who doesn't have a passion yet, or is just kind of exploring? Everybody knows what they want to do. Sweet. That goes like 12 slides. We'll just jump ahead. I know. So I don't need my slides, apparently. All right. So some of the ways to find that or to embrace that is reading, right? Some of these things came up: Twitter, Hacker News, Reddit, NetSec, blogs like Naked Security, Tripwire, that sort of thing. If you really don't know what you're looking for, if you're looking for a change, read these, take a look at these, and see kind of what things grab your attention. Okay. Does anyone else have any favorite feeds? Security Now. Data Loss TV. Mm-hmm. Right. Verizon Data Breach Incident Report. Anybody? Every summer that comes out, you read it, really excited. I skipped you. What else did you have to say?
I like programming.
Like programming?
So I like programming tools
Mm-hmm.
to use to do this kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I like the documentation.
Ooh. Yikes. You got a guy who writes reports over here and a guy who likes documentation. The only two in Utah. So, yeah. Yeah, it's the only thing I write is self-documenting code. So read, listen. There are lots of great podcasts out there, lots of good information. Everyone listen to Security Weekly? Anyone listen to Security Weekly? Yeah. Used to be Paul.com, changed to Security Weekly about a year ago. Risky Business, Patrick down in Australia does a good one. There's more. These podcasts are one advantage of the podcast and listening is it's something you can do while you're doing something else, right? You're driving, you're commuting, you're riding the bus. But they talk about all kinds of different topics. They're not narrowly focused. So, things to watch. YouTube DEF CON channel. Does everyone check that out? Yeah? How about irongeek.com? Is there anyone who doesn't know about irongeek.com? All right. So who's been there? Yes. What does Iron Geek have? It's Adrian Crenshaw's website. Talks. Adrian records hundreds of talks. I can't even begin to describe the number there. But it seems like almost all the smaller regional conferences, GERCon, DerbyCon, a lot of the BSides conferences, he records and he puts them up there. So you have the opportunity to go watch all these great talks without traveling. So if you haven't checked that out, that's a great site to find information. Anyone have any others? Yeah. Black Hat has a YouTube as well. Good. RSA also puts up some of their stuff if you're into the RSA talks. Yeah. Okay, the next step in kind of figuring that out is talking. Finding the local groups. Okay. How many here are part of some kind of local group? Be it a DEF CON group, OWASP, ISACA, IC Squared. This is where you really can find a lot of people who have similar passions and explore new things. Several of the speakers here are from DC 801, and they're talking about all kinds of topics from debugging to hardware attacks to penetration testing to malware, reverse engineering. What else? Anyone else from DC 801 here? Remembers all the talks? It's a bunch of talks. So DC 801 is a local DEF CON group. There are, I have no idea how many members. Does anyone know? Official members. Where's Metacortex when I need them? Or Nemas, yeah. So the DEF CON groups are great. For people in Salt Lake, in Utah, there's DC 801. DC 801 has a hackerspace in downtown Salt Lake City. It's a pretty nice hackerspace, and they have meetings, about 3 times a week on a variety of topics. A bunch of them are free and open to the public. Some of them are for members only, but these are people with similar passion and interests who want to talk about these things. There's also OWASP, ISACA, but a big thing is attending conferences like this one. So well done, you guys can check conferences off. But one of the things I wanted to mention with conferences are the important thing is not just to attend the talks. I mean, that's a lot of the reason we have these conferences is because people want to attend the talks, but what we call hallway con is often much, much more valuable. Yes, Dustin, you've got something to add? Okay. What's that? Yeah, no problem. That's Dustin Larson. I'd like to introduce everyone. I told him I'd give him a shout out. So, what is hallway con? Can anyone describe that? Networking, okay. Anyone else? This is the worst part about the last slot of the day. Everyone's dead tired and just wants to be done. And my students who are just here for extra credit, want to check out. But thank you. All right, hallway con. So talking to people, because that's one of the things, especially as geeks, a lot of us are introverts, right? Like me, I'm obviously very introverted and shy, as my bio said. But this is a chance to talk to people with like interests who may not, are not people you may not work with, and they're not going to be like, oh, you're a geek, I don't know anything about that. So hallway con is actually the best part of any conference. In fact, I would rather usually chat in the halls with people than go to the talks. That's especially the case at a big conference like DEF CON. Has anyone been to DEF CON? How easy is it to get into a talk at DEF CON? Yeah, you get a lot of hallway con just because you're in the hallway for like 2 hours trying to get into the talk. I do recommend going to DEF CON though. Is there anyone who has not been to DEF CON here? Wow, a lot of people. So, is there anyone who doesn't know what DEF CON is? Okay, so DEF CON is not for everybody. Is that an understatement? It's not for everybody, but it's really eye-opening to go to. In fact, I worked with a guy who went to DEF CON a couple of years ago. Well, it's more than a couple of years now. And, I said, well, so what did you think of your first DEF CON? He's like, I guess it's good to see what those people do. Right? And he kind of had a little sneer, and he's like, I don't like those people. What he doesn't realize is some of those people are his coworkers. And while there's a lot of black t-shirts and mohawks, there's a lot of good information there, and you're going to get exposed to things that you normally wouldn't see. The downside is it's huge and chaotic and hot, and it's DEF CON. But I'd recommend anyone from Utah especially go. Why from Utah? The DC 801 party. Well, there is that, yes. It's what? Driving distance. So there are people who come from around the world to go to DEF CON. People who drive across the country, fly in from Asia, whatever. For us, it's an hour-and-a-half flight or a 5.5-hour drive. It's also a cheap conference, right? How much does it cost to get into DEF CON? $220? So about $200. Does anyone know what it costs to get into Black Hat? $1,700. RSA is about the same. Most of the bigger conferences are pretty expensive. DEF CON, $200, not too much. That may not be something your employer would be willing to pick up, but often you can work on something like saying, well, how about I go and don't use vacation time? Has anyone ever pulled that one? Yeah. So it's not very expensive, and then you can stay in Vegas for very little money. I'm looking at RSA right now, and RSA, you stay in downtown San Francisco, and if you buy your hotel room 6 months in advance, it's like $200 a night. Vegas, you can stay for how much? 50, 60, yeah. Vegas is pretty cheap. The other thing is you can eat cheaply in Vegas, especially if you drive down there. You stop at stop at Costco in St. George, buy some cereal and milk, and it makes it an easy one to go to. So there's a lot of good regional conferences though to go to. BSides, there's BSides Vegas, which if you're going to DEF CON, you might as well go to BSides Vegas. BSides Salt Lake City, obviously. St. Con, has anyone been to St. Con? Quite a few of you. That's usually in the fall. There's also some security stuff at Open West, which is April, May? Does anyone know when Open? 1st of May? Yeah. So we've got some good conferences around here, but there's also some smaller conferences that are really great, because one of the things about a great big conference like DEF CON is, well, who goes to DEF CON? Who else goes? The 40 people in this room and 15,000 of your closest friends, right? So it's absolute chaos. It's very hard to hook up with people to visit. There's one guy that I've been exchanging email with and messages on Twitter for quite a while, and I'm like, hey, we should totally meet up at DEF CON. And with all the chaos and all that, we basically got a handshake in passing, in the 4 days, because there's just so many things booked up. So the downside to that, so the upside is everybody's at DEF CON. The downside is everybody's at DEF CON. But there's these smaller cons you can go to. GERCON, has anyone heard of GERCON? No. Oh, you have? Where's GERCON? Grand Rapids, Michigan. Where is that? I don't know, Michigan someplace. A good con. How about DerbyCon? Has anyone been to DerbyCon? DerbyCon is fantastic. So there's conferences in Colorado, but these smaller conferences are great because usually there's not as many people. The speaker quality varies a lot, and they're worth going to. One thing I wanted to mention with attending the conferences and watching these talks is a lot of times the topic, when you're trying to figure out what you're looking for, can be colored by the speaker, right? There are some really, really good speakers who can make really, really boring topics super interesting. There are some really terrible speakers that could take an awesome topic and make it just incredibly arduous to watch. So that's a good reason to sample a lot of them. And the advantage of grabbing these talks off YouTube or irongeek.com is you get to check out a lot of them. Those of you who've gone to DEF CON and waited in line for half an hour, and then you go into a talk and the guy spends 15 minutes and then says, thank you, any questions? And then walks out. Or actually BSides last year. We won't call out that person, Danny. Okay, so when you find these things, what do? You find what grabs you, and you can dive in, you can dip your toe in. That's one of the great things is that there's so much information out there that if you want to dive into it, you really can. And I'm going to pick on Jeff for a second. Jeff, can I pick on you? So a couple of years ago, Jeff was like, nice. I checked mine just before I came in, so super professional there, room monitor. Take away your volunteer shirt. So a couple of years ago, Jeff says, I want to learn malware and analysis and reverse engineering. And he was really into it. He saw some talks at DEF CON. And what did you do, Jeff? Start playing malware at home. You got the great malware book from No Starch. The name is totally escaping me. Sorry, No Starch, one of our sponsors. Practical malware analysis. And what do you do now? He's a malware analyst. Jeff fully dove in to malware. He's like, hey, this malware stuff is pretty cool. And he just did it. The other thing is, you can dip your toes into this. You don't have to fully commit. You can be like, want to try a little malware analysis. And the nice thing is that you can go, kind of back and forth, depending on what you want to do. So, does that solve everyone's problems? Yes? Sweet. Thanks, buddy. So, now, we're doing it again, but with feeling, right? So, it's not just enough to read something once or watch something once, right? Hopefully what this is doing is this is kindling something inside of you, and you're saying, you know what, I really like malware analysis, or I really like IDS, or I really like breaking stuff, or whatever it is. And so you dig in deeper, right? You read, you find some books on the topic. You can check out OpenCourseWare. Is everyone familiar with OpenCourseWare? Is anyone familiar with OpenCourseWare? A few of you. So you've got MOOCs, right? I'll talk about those in a second. But one of the things that you had before that was you had a lot of schools who were opening up their courseware. You've got open software, right, that anyone can access. Some schools do OpenCourseWare. Does anyone know who Ron Rivest is? Who's Ron Rivest? Yeah, right. He's the R in RSA, right? Would anyone think it'd be cool to take a security class from Ron Rivest? Does anyone know who he's affiliated with? MIT. They're kind of like Slick, but in Massachusetts. So they have Ron Rivest's security course up on their website, on the MIT OpenCourseWare site, where you can go up there and download lectures and assignments from one of the leading cryptographers out there doing research. They have tons and tons of courses. Some of them just have some slides and some assignments. Some of them have everything. But this is a source where you can go find that information. Some people don't do well with just reading or watching videos. Some people like a structured course. And so that's definitely an option for that. That brings up MOOCs. Does anyone know what a MOOC is? Does anyone know what an MMORPG is? Strange people walking into the back to answer that question. Thank you. So a MOOC is a massive online open course, right? So Coursera, is anyone familiar with Coursera? Or edX? These are online things where schools such as Stanford, Johns Hopkins, Berkeley, lots and lots of schools have come together and put entire courses online that you can take for free. There's, cryptography courses. Has anyone tried the Stanford cryptography course? What'd you guys think? Rough? Yeah, it's pretty brutal, right? You're like, oh yeah, I know crypto. And then you jump into that, you're like, holy crap, right? And then there's a Crypto 2 out, by the way, for those of you who got through Crypto 1. How many got through Crypto 1? Nobody. But it's Dan Boehner's course. Boehner, I don't know how to say his last name. Bona. But it's a really cool course, and it dives into a lot of theory and the mathematics behind crypto. But there's courses out there on all kinds of things: risk analysis, ethical hacking, pen testing, web app security, all kinds of AppSec, as well as other things. And one thing that I don't have up here that is really important is they also have courses on speaking, writing, things like that, because one of the things I run into a lot when I'm talking to employers is they're like, this guy's really good at technical stuff, but he can't write. I'm like this gentleman over here who likes to write documentation for fun. So that's something that you could work on with that, because basically if you can't communicate the technical ideas, it doesn't matter how good you are. What's that? Was that actually a comment, or was that just like someone saying, where are we eating dinner in 21 minutes when this talk is over? Don't. So one of the other things, more talks. Hopefully that you've found something that interests you. You can go find more talks. Almost any topic you find, someone's giving a talk on. You dive in. There's more sources for that. You can dive deeper. You can get Black Hat DVDs. There's tons of conferences like GERCON that you haven't heard of a lot of things. And that gets us back into talk again, right? So collaborating with others. This is big, right? Does anyone here work with anybody on something not necessarily for their job, but just something they're interested in? Projects, you people, right? How has that been for you? This is the interactive part. You can talk. Great. Ethan, do you have any comment? Yeah, you can really push each other and go deeper, but it also has the kind of the effect of you help each other, right? And plus, for those of us who are a little competitive, you kind of don't want to be the worst guy on the team, right? The other thing with talk is to give a talk. Who here has presented at a conference before? Was it a good experience? How did you feel about the topic you had? Like before and after? Any difference? No difference. Was it an awful experience and you're never doing it again? Oh, this is awkward. Note for next time, take present a talk off. And maybe not present anymore. No, so when you put together your talk, did you learn anything more? Did it make you think about some things? It's different to, just kind of doing something by yourself versus actually having to stand up and, have slides or not have slides and do a demo, right? Right? Has anyone done a live demo on a talk? How'd that go? Good man, yes. The demo gods are never in your favor. But yeah, so the idea with the talk is that you go a little further, right? You dig a little deeper, and you want to be competent. You don't want to get up here and look like an idiot, as this example seems to show. So, okay. But one of the things we get into is, I don't understand what we're talking about, right? I'm not that ready. I don't know X. Does anyone run into that? Like, hey, I want to do this, but I have no idea how to do it, where to start. So my suggestion is that you play. That's one of the great things is that with this, you can mess around with it. Like, for example, if you guys want to do malware analysis, what would you do? Right now, anybody? Go download malware. You can, in fact, download malware. Download malware, question mark, profit. And then what would you do after you download your malware? Okay, good. This is the stuff you should enjoy, right? You should be excited to get malware. Not necessarily on your production box, but you should be like, yeah, awesome, I found the malware, or I trigger this alarm, or I pop this box. Something should grab your attention, okay? And I've got some suggestions on how to some basic things that can kind of help you with that. One of them is learn Wireshark. Who here uses Wireshark? Who here thinks it's really, really useful in their job? Who here's like, I really don't need Wireshark and it's never helped me? Okay, just checking. If you're like, oh, I'm a purist, I'll only use TCP dump, then that's fine. You're hardcore. You probably use like Vim or something too. Who's giving the Vim talk? Are you the Vim talk guy? Wow. Good for you. I'm a nano guy. I'm lazy. Which brings us to the next thing. Learn Linux. This was a text I got a couple of years ago from someone in this room. I'm not going to point out who it was, unless he wants to out himself. So he's not going to do it? Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying he's in the second row on the right or anything. So, does anyone see what the problem is with this? I'll read it for those in the back. The message I got was apparently tar-cvf star file.tar hoses the first file in the directory. Oops. And my sympathetic reply was ha 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 ha. And then I point out the first arg after the F is the file name of the new tadall because autocorrects for the win. And then, or tarball. And this was information that would have been useful 2 hours ago. So what happened? Does anyone know what that command will do? What does that command do? Notice I'll call out Dustin Larson, but I'm not going to call out your name on the video. Right, so it expands out that and then tries to put everything in the first file name it expands because the -f is what the file is going to be. So it basically takes all the files and dumps them into the first file, which is really bad if this is, has crypto information for a hardware security module. That's what happened. So learning, yeah, it's not the only box that's been whacked by someone who doesn't know Linux. Who here is good with Linux? Who wishes they were better, right? Who messes with Linux a lot with their security job, right? You do a lot with Linux, okay? I mean, you just need to learn Linux. So many tools run on Linux. If you don't need to figure out how to do something, it will save you so much time, right? I mean, I had somebody who asked me the other day, it's like, how do I get an MD5 for a bunch of files, or for a bunch of entries in a file? Anyone know how to do that? MD5 sum, right? Which comes into learn to automate, right? Scripting is your friend. When you're learning these things, you should learn how to script in some language. Does anyone have a favorite scripting language? Bash, Python, PowerShell. PowerShell is actually pretty awesome these days. So, I mean, it was kind of a joke, right? Ha ha. But once you get to like PowerShell 4, it's pretty awesome. PowerSplit, yeah. And PSExec is also pretty useful on the pen testing side. So thanks, Microsoft. That was a double-edged sword. So learn to script, learn to automate. There are so many cool things you can do at the command line. For Linux, you can also do cool things with PowerShell, but learn how to automate these tasks. A lot of the things we do are repetitive, and you don't want to, have to type it in over and over again. There are tons of tutorials. If you look for Bash scripting tutorial or Python scripting or anything, there's tons of cool things. And it becomes useful even at lower levels. Like, does anyone use Scapy for anything? Does anyone know what Scapy is? What's Scapy? It is a Python crafting module for packets. Yeah, it's a packet crafting module. It lets you do really, really granular things with packets through Python. Another recommendation, learn a debugger, right? You don't necessarily need to be able to do, a lot of stuff, but if you have some idea of what debugging looks like, it makes a lot more sense, right? Like you see, you're looking at a trace and you see a lot of 9 zeros in it, right? In hex, 9-0, anybody? Anybody? NOPs, right? Yeah. So you know what those things are. There's a lot of tools out there. I mentioned it later, but corelan.be has tons of great tutorials. Has anyone been out to the Corelan site? Good. Next big one, learn tracer T. If that slide didn't make you laugh, go back to the talk step and ask somebody. Notice I didn't say somebody old this time. Tracer T, Tracer T, right? What? Yeah, don't say that. Well, it's Tracer T. It shows you everyone's connection to Google. Still, what we need to do is just play the Tracer T video for an hour. Okay. Next thing, find some challenges. Challenge yourself, right? Make a game out of it. Is anyone familiar with the term gamification? Turning stuff into a game. I feel bad saying this, but it's something I use with my kids all the time, right? Let's see who can stay quiet the longest. Or let's see who can put away their toys the fastest, right? You turn things into a game, and suddenly it's fun, right? It's also kind of manipulative, but there are tons of challenges out there. There's lots of online CTFs. There's a lot of conferences and contests have archives of things to do. If you want to find something, a great place to start is someplace where someone has actually put something to find. Does that make sense? So you go out there, capture the packet people. You can go up and get their network captures and look through them. And they've got years of archives up there. DC 3.0 was supposed to release their forensic challenges. They haven't so far, but they should have that as well. So now we're to where I was starting with this. Build that lab, right? Virtual machines are your friends. Is there anyone who doesn't know how to use virtualization in here? Fantastic. Virtualization is pretty awesome for this stuff. Why? Isolation? What else? Cost, yeah. You don't have to own it, right? It's not like, 15 years ago where if you wanted to have a Linux box and a Windows box and a client, all that, you needed to have, 5 different desktops, and you had all these crappy P2s and P3s that you'd cobbled together to try to do a network. No, you can have, this MacBook has 16 gigs of RAM. I have another laptop that's got 32 gigs of RAM. I can put lots and lots of machines on there. And the best part about the VMs is that when I mess them up, which you invariably will when you're playing, what do? Revert to snapshot, right? If you're not using virtual machines, you're doing it wrong. So where do we get VMs? AWS, sure, if you want to pay for it. Some of us are made of money, apparently. 14 cents an hour, where am I going to get that kind of money? What's that? VirtualBox, VMware Workstation, there's plenty of things out there. Hyper-V, I guess. One of the problems is, though, so what about Windows VMs? Can you get Windows VMs anywhere? Sure? No? No? How about legit Windows VMs? We'll get in there. Modern.ie. Has anyone heard of this website? What is it? Right, it's from Microsoft. It's designed for web developers to test their stuff. But what versions of Windows does it have up there? All of them, well, not all of them. I mean, it's not like it's got 3.11, and you've got to use I'm trying to think of a browser from then, but there's NCSA Mosaic 1.0. It does not have that. But it goes all the way back to XP, right? If for some reason you want a Windows XP machine with IE6, you can just go download it from there. It's a time bomb demo, but on the desktop, it actually has the instructions on how to rearm it. So it's pretty cool. For a while, it was not patched, and you could just pop it with MSO 08067 if you wanted to look cool. Sometime around November, they fixed that because they wanted to make my demo fail. But you can remove one security patch, and it's vulnerable again. There's Windows XP, Windows 7, there's Vista, in case you want to test your website against the 7 people who are still running that. There's Windows 10 is out there with every flavor of IE, and you can just download them. They're all time-bombed, but they're legitimate versions you can test your web app with, right? My web app happens to be Metasploit sometimes. So that's a good place. I mean, you can actually get those. That's always been a challenge, is getting Windows VMs. Now Microsoft is giving them to us. Kali Linux. Does anyone not know what Kali Linux is? Okay, good. Metasploitable. I don't even know what DVM is. That should be DVL. Good job on the slides, Rob. Other Linux distros. You can put damn vulnerable a web app on it, damn vulnerable Linux. You can grab, things like that. You can build these. There's a lot of tutorials out there. Metasploit Unleashed. Has everyone done Metasploit Unleashed? Has anyone done Metasploit Unleashed? A couple of people? Offensive security, the people who do Kali Linux have a web tutorial out there called Metasploit Unleashed that runs you through reconnaissance, fuzzing, scanning, exploitation, the whole thing, just for free up there. If you want to try some reverse engineering, debugging, that sort of stuff, exploits, CoreLAN has some really great tutorials up there. And then YouTube. YouTube has a lot of demos up there. So, for the end is what you need to do. You just go out there and do it, right? All the tools you need are out there. So, go read, go listen, go watch, go talk, and then repeat as necessary. So, does anyone have any questions? Comments? Funny jokes? Bless you. All right, that's it. Thank you.